You are listening to the Teach Middle East podcast, connecting, developing, and empowering educators.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the season finale of the Teach Middle East podcast. We are excited to have you with us, listening or watching, whichever you choose. And we want to invite you to also share your comments on the topics and themes that we discuss here today on our socials at Teach Middle East or at Teach Middle East Magazine. We're excited to have with us four fantastic guests. Five fantastic guests that I can't count properly with me today on the podcast. I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves, and I'll start with our first guest, which is Jeff. Go ahead.
Hi, good afternoon, Lisa. Great to be here. My name is Jeff Evans. I'm working at the moment with Learning Key Education Consultancy, working with private schools across the Emirates on their school improvement journeys.
Nice to have you, Jeff. Salma.
Hi, Lisa. Thank you very much for having me today. I am Salma Gamil. I am the Head of Inclusion and Designated Safeguarding Lead at the American International School in Dubai.
Thanks for coming on the podcast, Salma. Mark.
Hi, thanks for the invite, Lisa. My name is Mark Leppard. I'm the Headmaster at the British school Khubairat in Abu Dhabi. I've been Headmaster here for 6 years and in the region for 25 years.
Thank you for coming again, Mark. It was our pleasure having you last time, and we're definitely looking forward to your insights this time around. Nice to have you. Munir.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Munir. I'm the principal of Darul Huda Islamic School in Alain, which is part of Abu Dhabi. It's an Indian curriculum school.
Nice to have you, Munir. And finally, Julia.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me, Lisa. My name is Julia Knight. I'm the principal of EtonHouse in Bahrain, and we are a fledgling but growing school, the first of its kind in the Middle East.
Lovely to have you all here. Now, we are here to talk about the highs, the lows, the peaks, the valleys of the 2020-2021 academic year. And it's been a year like no other. I mean, I have kids in school and they've been home, I would have to say, for the majority of the year, in, out, shake it all about. That's how the year feels like to me. And I want you to sum up. So I'm going to go around and ask you to sum up the year in 3 words. No explanations, just tell me what 3 words come to your mind when you hear of this, when you think, of the 2020-2021 academic year. Let's kick off with Julia.
Resilience building, awe-inspiring, and frustrating.
Wow. Salma.
Overwhelming, challenging, and surprising.
Wow. Munir.
Collaborative, self-learning, IT savvy.
Mark.
Challenging, resilience, and community.
Jeff.
I've put disrupted, unpredictable, and also challenging.
So I'm hearing a common theme there. I think about 2 or 3 people said challenging. And I think our audience can agree it has indeed been a challenging year. But we don't want to dwell on just, all the things that were not so great this year. So my next question is really, I want you to think of one thing that you achieved this year. What's one key achievement? Because there has to be something. Munir, let's start with you.
Yes, we could impart learning beyond borders. There was no limit. Everything was there on the cloud.
Right. Julia, what do you have to say about that?
That we've actually managed to grow the enrolment in COVID times and grow the school.
In COVID times? That's amazing.
Yeah, we opened during COVID, so that was always going to be challenging.
Wow. Mark?
Yeah, I think our focus on well-being across our whole community has been something we've really worked on, and only last week we were awarded the Carnegie Mental Health Gold Award for that work throughout the year. So we've been working on it for a number of years, but to get their highest accolade, we were really pleased.
Congratulations. I think that is a testament to the work that you guys have been doing there. To get that award at a time when everybody's talking about how bad well-being is being handled in different places is a true testament to, so well done to you and to your team. Jeff?
I think a greater focus or a greater awareness of what works in terms of high quality learning and collaboration, being online, hybrid, and in class.
Yeah. Salma?
It was the diligence of every member of the team, and that diligence leading us to receive the award of hope, that our school gives hope by the NIASC during this academic year. It was not an easy task, but we were very proud of it.
Well done. I think focusing on what you have achieved is just a great way of building positivity, because I'm telling you right now, it's very easy to go into this woe is me state and to get really down about everything that's going on. And if you focus a little bit, and I'm going to invite our audience and people listening to this podcast, just take a minute to focus on the things that they know that they've achieved this year that they weren't able to achieve in times when it was quote unquote normal. Just a little thing that came to mind when I was listening to everybody. In terms of your school and your organization, right? What would you say is the one thing that's really changed since this whole thing, well, since this academic year? What's really changed? What's the shift that you're seeing? I'll start down the bottom with Mark and then I'll work my way up.
If we talk about sort of practical changes, that's probably the easiest thing rather than philosophical. I think the way we've looked at, say, communication with parents, so we've gone to remote parents' evenings. It's been something I've wanted to tackle for probably the last 20 years, but maybe not been brave enough to change it. But this has forced us into a change, and the actual feedback from parents and staff, which isn't always aligned, as I know the rest of the people on this podcast will know, but we've actually had a real alignment that the remote sort of Zoom style parents' evenings have been more efficient, but actually more effective as well. And it's been a much more focused approach. So for me, that's been one of the real big takeaways that we're going to continue with afterwards.
Yeah, Julia, what's changed?
We're a new school, so we have found that we've been changing constantly. But I think I've come from a very different culture of education into a brand new setting. So we've been able to really set the pace, and things that have been spoken about already, you know, growing that resilience in that community, they're the things we want to keep, and we want to keep on growing.
Yeah, Salma, what's changed?
From a students of determination perspective, I have to build on what Mark's been saying. We've been dying for so long to bring the parents on board, to be part of the whole support team, to be a part of the big picture. And this year was the best chance to do so, because there was no other choice. They had to be hands-on, and they saw firsthand what needs to be done day in and day out with our students of determination. So it was a major achievement or major gain for us to finally have the parents not just being communicated to, but are actually involved in the whole process. So it was a major gain.
Yes. Jeff?
I would say one of the positive changes is the way in which we share best practice, because now the teachers, especially with the online lessons, it's very easy for teachers and middle leaders and senior leaders to cherry pick the best practice and share it really effectively and really easily, which is great. This is something that one of the, a couple of my partner schools have struggled with, because teachers are quite humble generally in terms of identifying what they do best. So when we've got this wealth of online material, we can quite easily pick out what's excellent and share it. So that's really good.
Yeah. It is. Munir?
Yeah, the whole perspective of teaching and learning changed overnight. And so far, the parents and the teachers were under the impression that it is possible only in a physical environment. And when it comes to Indian curriculum schools, there are certain set patterns traditionally, and that we could break all on a sudden.
Yeah, I like the fact that people have been more open to change. Obviously, we've been forced to change, and sometimes that's the best way to change, because how many people are going to willingly give up what's comfortable and what's easy? Not many. Not many people. They might like a post on Facebook that says, change is how you grow. And then you see 1,000 likes. But the truth is, how many people are truly willing to change when there is nothing pushing them to make that change? So in light of that, I want you to tell me, what's been your biggest lesson? Because we all have learned something. And it doesn't have to be about your profession. It could be a personal lesson, right? What's your biggest lesson from this academic year? Let's kick off with Salma.
Okay, this might sound a little cliche, a little Boy Scout, but always be prepared. Because I mean, you sleep on something, the next morning it's another thing. So it's not a luxury anymore to have a plan B and a plan C, because otherwise what you've been building for a week might easily fall apart the next if you're not prepared to back it up. Because it's, as we said when we started off, it's unexpected and surprising. So I would say always be prepared with a plan B and a plan C and a D just in case.
Yeah. Julia, what have you learned?
I've learned exactly that you cannot plan, and that changes will happen literally overnight, especially in this region. The mandated school closures meant that we had to upskill massively. The whole profession in the last 18 months is completely unrecognisable, which I think is testament to the amount of skills that teachers actually have. On a personal level, I've learned to be braver. Leaving a fantastic job in the middle of COVID to go into a brand new school was always going to be something that you needed to be a little bit brave or silly, depending on how you look at it, to do. But yeah, so be brave, be fearless, and just try and keep that level of panic at that nice, easy level.
Yeah. What have you learned, Jeff?
Okay, professionally, I think echoing some of the other colleagues, the resilience of teachers and learners and students, and how well they've adapted. I would add to that, I think one of the best outcomes of this whole past year is the fact that the great society at large now has a much better appreciation of the work that teachers do and how demanding it is, which, is a very positive outcome. Personally, I think exercise, the importance of exercise and gratitude, as you said earlier, trying to keep a positive outlook on things as far as possible, even when it's not easy. Sometimes. Do
you think that positive outlook on the teaching profession will stick?
I hope so.
We're hoping.
I hope so.
Yeah.
So many friends in the community have, commented about homeschooling and helping their children. And, it's really opened their eyes.
Well, if you're listening to this podcast, one of the reasons why we're doing it is because this year has just been a total shift. And so shifting from stable internet to unstable internet is one of those things that we have to deal with. Anyway, one of the lessons I've learned, and the internet just taught me that, is that not everything works when you want it to, and you have to be flexible, you have to take it with a smile, and you have to keep going. What have you learned, Munir?
At the professional level, I felt that how we could involve the parents and the community at large into this. Earlier, it was an one-sided affair. No? It was left to the teachers or the community, the stakeholders within the school community. And here the auditing of the teachers were done by the parents. So we could get a clear feedback on what's on. And the personal level, I should say that I could understand the emotional imbalance being faced by different people when they are confined to homes.
Yeah, for me, I think someone's touched on it about human adaptability. Overnight, we had to, the equivalent I use, and I think I might have mentioned it before, is if we were looking at a different sector, we were a fixed wing pilot. Overnight, we had to change to be a helicopter pilot. And although the skills, the principles of flight are exactly the same, the skills are completely different. But over a weekend, we had to change. The thing I've learned is that whatever challenges we face as humans, we'll find a way. It might be a bit painful, it might be bumpy, but at the end of the day, if the focus is on something we truly believe in, and for educationists, obviously the outcome is for the students, I think we'll find a way. And I've seen that across every single member of staff in my school, be it support staff, teaching staff, anybody has found a way. And for me, that I'm really proud of that. But I think as the sector in general, I think we should all be proud of that, because I know it's not just one school, it's happened right across the sector.
Yeah. We hear a lot about the changes that are taking place. So we see them before our eyes, right? And if you think back on this past academic year, the one that, we're currently closing out, what would you like to see left, never to return to this academic year, or to any academic year, or to any school, anywhere? What would we like to scrap completely? I'll start, I'll mix it up and I'll go at the top to Munir. What do we want to forget?
It's fundamentally fear of mingling with people, right? And positive side is we had a lot of time with plenty of time with our loved ones.
Yeah,
that is something unique that happened. And I need not tell about the financial side. It's obvious to all.
Yeah, I think so. We wanna definitely forget that we're afraid to touch each other. It's the weirdest thing. I don't know if anybody listening or watching.
It's still continuing. That fear of mingling still continues.
Yeah, like I see people in the mall or in the shops or wherever I go, and my first instinct is to rush to them and give them a handshake or a hug or something. And then my common sense kicks in and goes, no, you no longer do that. You can't actually rush them. And I really hope that after a while that dies down and people start to be able to get back together and greet each other and talk to each other, even if we don't go back to shaking hands, which I was always a little bit dubious about the sanitization of that whole thing. But at least we should be able to stand close to each other and talk to each other and hear each other well. What would you like to throw away from this from this era, Jeff?
I would say schools being closed has been the biggest challenge, both as a parent and and somebody who usually works in schools. It's been there. A lot of positives have come out of the online approach, and the variety and the flexibility that school communities have had to embrace. But I don't think there's any substitute for the face-to-face school community. Children mixing with friends and classmates and teachers, being able to share ideas. So I'd like to never see that happen again, ideally in our lifetimes.
Yeah, I think you and every parent, right, would never want to see schools close again. Salma?
I have 2 points, actually. The first point is I don't want to see any more masks. I miss smiling at people and people smiling at me. It gives me a sense of security when you walk by someone and you just smile and nod and move along. To not be able to see facial expressions of people just freaks me out. And I'm sure it also freaks a lot of people out. And there was a joke circulating. Who would ever thought you'd go up to a bank counter with a mask, ask them for money, and they would give it to you? Well, it's painfully funny. Nowadays you could easily walk out of your apartment with no jacket, no shirt, no pants even, but God forbid you go out with no mask. It's getting ridiculous. So I definitely pray that we leave that behind sometime soon. The other thing is, as Munir mentioned, is the budgetary imbalance, because that led to a huge turnover in schools, and it also affected provisions. Again, I have to circulate back to my kids of special needs, and that affected the resources and the working hands and so forth. So that had definitely a negative impact on us. So I really, really, really pray that that recovers soon, because it's not in the best interest for anyone at this moment.
I completely get it. Julia?
I'd like to see children lose their fear. You know, we had one little girl and she came from a good family. She had brothers and sisters. And when we locked down last time, we do wellbeing lessons every week, and we kept it as part of the online provision. And she shared with her friends and the teacher that she was scared to come back to school because she didn't know how to play anymore. And I'd love to see that fear that children are not sharing with us, because there's many children that don't have siblings or don't have access to, you know, schools or whatever it might be. I just want them to leave that fear behind and go back to their childhood. I feel that we've really lost 2 years of children's childhoods across the board at every age group, and it'll be nice for young people to be able to go back outside and have their friendships, go to the cinema and do all the things that teenagers and, you know, little children get to do. Just be children, just be young people. I'd like to see that return.
Yeah, definitely. I never thought of that, about how it would affect, you know, a child's ability to even play and interact the way they normally would. Because even when they're in school, they're in bubbles and they're distanced, and it's not the same. Wow. Yeah. Mark, what would you like to, sorry, go ahead. Sorry, Salma, before I go to Mark.
If I may build on that, I have 2 kids of my own, and they're not toddlers, but they're not old either. They're grades 5 and 6. And my elder just told me something that really freaked me out, that he doesn't want to go back to the blended model. He'd rather stay online, because they're not even allowed to share food with each other. They're not allowed to share popcorn with each other. They're not allowed to sit together and speak, just to ask, what about the day? How is it going? They're not allowed to share pencils or anything. So for him, it was just agonizing, because as Julia said, they're losing skills such as play skills and social skills that we didn't really think about, but now we can see them as we are trying to prepare them to go back. They're resilient because they're afraid, because they sense that they have lost so many skills that they won't be able to go back to the norm that they were on. So thank you, Julia, for bringing that up. It is very, very scary.
Wow.
It's almost like the academics have become secondary to actually what schools are for. You know, I've got a boy in year 5 as well, and school is about chips in the canteen. It's about those corridor conversations. Yes. It's about play. I mean, it's not really about English and maths, is it? But that's secondary. And we've really lost those skills. And I think if we can ditch that fear, if we can get rid of that notion that school is just about the academics, and I take my hat off to Mark and his school for his well-being, but we need to ditch that idea that school is just about those academics, because actually as teachers we do so much more, and I think that's really come to light over the last 18 months, how much we do pastorally that, you know, gives those children the academics that they get at the end of 11 or 12 or 13.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. It almost makes me feel a little bit sad for children, what's gone on. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, go ahead, Mark. What would you like us to ditch?
No, I think most of the things have been said, so face masks, social distancing and all those things. But for me, it's as Julia said, it's that richer curriculum. So we haven't been able to do co-curricular. We haven't been able to do drama and music and sport and all the things that, if we look back, I'm sure all of us look back on our school days, and the school trips, they're the things we won't remember. Period 4 maths when we're 35, 40, we'll remember how we felt with a school trip and talking to a teacher and all that. And I think that's been something that's slipped, and from no intention. So the thing I'd like never to be mentioned again is the words new normal. I hate it. So we had a poster go up without me knowing, and it said, "Oh, this is the new normal." And I ripped it down across the school, and my marketing team told me off, and I said, "If we do that, we're accepting it, and we can't accept it. We've got to move forward."
Yeah, I completely agree with you. You know, trips, music, drama, sports, those things, they are fundamental. You know, I mean, if I think back to my school days, what I do remember most are the things that were co-curricular, and you build so many skills from those activities that when you don't have them, you're really at a disadvantage. I really want us as a society to get back to where we can have the fullness of the school experience for each child, not just cramming them with content and online for 8-9 hours a day. The screen is what I would like to leave behind, not fully, obviously, because we can't, but for a considerable amount of the day, I would rather students not have a screen in front of them. Please don't shoot me, all my EdTech friends. I'm not against EdTech. I love it. I work with it. But I do believe that you're so much better off if you're interacting face to face and learning. The screen could be there, but it really should just be a little tool that you use and put away and carry on with your day. So in reflection, when you think about, you know, the things you'd like to throw away, there are many. And Mark talked about one that he'd like to keep, but I'd like to find from everybody else what you'd like to keep. I remember Mark saying he wants to keep the online parents' evening, which I think were a godsend for somebody like me who can't get into my kids' school all the time and would love to just be at everyone. But now I've not missed one because, and my husband and I can be on them even if we're not in the same location or country, which is the best gift. So in terms of things to keep, definitely schools out there, if you're listening to this podcast, keep online parents' evening. We as parents love it. What would you like to keep, Munir, from this period?
Especially the new resources, integration of technology, and so much of resources we were forced to accept.
Yeah. So you like
teachers, students, parents, everyone, yeah. In one way or the other, I should say we were forced to accept it, and that became part of the new normal.
Remember, we're not using that word anymore, Munir.
Mark doesn't like that
word. We're throwing new normal out.
I'm leaving now. I've had enough. I'm going.
No, we're not accepting it. It is not the new normal. It was, and it will pass, and we will get back to a better place. I think we won't go back to normal. We will get better. That is what I think will happen. Julia, what would you like to keep from this period in our new and better place?
We are going to keep our playtimes extended. So we had to, like every school, had to stagger the intake of the children arriving and departing. So what we did is we built playtimes into the beginning of the school day and at the end, and we're going to keep those. It's 45 minutes of pure free play, and the children are able to go into the garden and they can use the equipment outside, and it's just given them such a zest, a joie de vivre for coming to school, and that's not going anywhere. So that's been built into the timetable next year for reception year 1 and year 2, and we'll be moving into the junior school with exactly the same play-based provision. So we are going to keep play, because play's fun. That's what we're here for, right?
Yeah, why not? Jeff, what would you like to keep from this period?
Following on from what Mr. Munir said, I think I'd like to see the diversity and variety and richness of resources to continue. Particularly, many teachers have worked harder to sustain and engage and motivate the children. They've had to. So that's positive. That's great. I'd like to see that continue. I'd also like to see the high quality feedback, whether that's audio or video in some cases. The quality and I think in the richness of that feedback to students on their work is so much more useful than a comment in a book or a grade even. So that two things I think would be excellent if we can keep hold of those in the future.
Brilliant. Salma?
I'd like to keep two things as well. The first one is the amount of involvement of the parents. I do not wish to see that withdraw because it has made a difference. Building on what Julia said and Mr. Munir and Mark, it showed the parents the magnitude of what the teacher is doing more than teaching their kids ABCs and 1, 2, 3s. So I'd love to see that continue with us. And the second thing is the focus on well-being, because focusing on the well-being of the parents and the focus on well-being of the children made the parents somehow realize, like Julia said, it's not all about English and math. It's about their mental health and their acceptance of the situations that we're being forced to be in, and that they are more accepting of the fact that as long as they are happy and healthy, then more things can be achieved academic wise. And that wouldn't have been achieved if it wasn't for the well-being sessions and the well-being awareness that have been done this year across most of the schools in the country.
Brilliant. I do agree with you. So apart from Parents' Evening, Mark, what else would you like to keep from this period?
I think Jeff summed up one for me was the feedback. In our last inspection, we received an outstanding, but one of our key challenges and moving forward was feedback, quality of feedback. And I've noticed that has become so much sharper and more focused. And in a way, the screen or the social distancing, even in the classroom, has meant teachers have got to be really sharp and pertinent. So that will be something I really want to see carry on. I think the digital upskilling in general, although I don't want it to be, I think technology should be our tool to support us, we shouldn't be its slave. But I think the current circumstances meant we've been a bit of slave to it. We've had to use it. But I do like the upskilling that people have. They feel far more confident, and to get people to move along the pace that what we've moved in a normal time would have been virtually impossible. So I think people have been, you summed up, Lisa, they're forced to do it. They're so much more confident now. They can use it when they need to and want to, rather than it's being forced upon them. So when we do move out of this, I think it's going to be very positive.
Yeah, when we do move out of this. So that's
mindset.
Yes, that's going to lead me on to what I want to ask the panel next is, what do you think will happen next year? What's your greatest wish for the new academic year? I mean, just give me one wish. I'm just going to pretend to be a genie right now and try to grant it. What's your one wish? I know what mine is. So let's start with Munir, and then I'll come right back around to myself. What's your big wish for the new academic year, 2021, 2022?
Complete corona-free world, and we have to be safe.
Julia, what's your wish?
I agree with Munir. If I never heard the word COVID again, I'd be very happy. But just to keep the schools open. Just keep the schools open, please. That's it.
Yeah. Salma, what's your big wish?
I want to be able to see my students back in the building. The building is daunting without them. I want to be able to scream at them in the hallway and they scream back. I know that this was something that we complained about, but God, do we miss it. I wish for them to come back and be happy and healthy, and that we'd be able to share experiences together. So, and that builds on Mr. Munir's COVID-free, because I don't think that will happen without being a COVID-free world. So we're praying.
What is your big wish, Jeff?
To see a return to normality in terms of trips, school visits, competitions, camping trips, expeditions, all of the, the rich enhanced curriculum or broader curriculum that the children have missed out on. Some schools are focused on core subjects and content. They need all of those other opportunities that they, as Mark said earlier, that's what we all remember from our school days. They need all of that desperately. So we need that back straight away. Ironically, my daughter is 15. She's been able to continue playing rugby with triathlon, swimming, etc. out of school, in private clubs, but not in school, which is frustrating this year. So it'd be good to see that back in between schools as well, competitions.
Mark.
Yeah, pretty much the same as Jeff. The ability to deliver a full, holistic educational provision, and I think we've touched on. I don't think the academics, and I'm talking not across every school, because I know some schools have really struggled with technology, and that's that's difficult. But I think the vast majority of schools, I don't think the academic educational provision has suffered. It may have been done differently. I think there's been a focus, but I just think the holistic approach is what we've lost, and the sooner we can get that back, the better, because that's what school's about. It's about the whole educational package, not just what's in the classroom.
Yeah, I think teachers, educators knew this all along, but I think the world has just woken up to it, that education is so much more than the content, the books and that type of thing. What happens in between lessons and after lessons and before lessons are, it's such a big part of the school experience. We're winding down, but you are all educators. You've had a year like no other. My wish is for educators to get a lovely, restful summer. That is my big wish, because I'm telling you, after watching what has happened with education in school, out of school, it's actually a running joke in our house, like on a Saturday evening, to go, when's the email coming? Because it's going to come and they're not going to be allowed for 10 more days. It's because that's what the year has been like. And if you are a teacher who had to adapt to that quickly, you must be exhausted. So my wish is for you to have a really restful break. What are you guys planning to do to detach, to really get some relaxation and some rest? How are you planning to disconnect, to recharge? Julia?
Well, unfortunately, we're on the red list for the UK, like I think the whole of the region is. So now I know that I'm going to be in Bahrain for the next 6 weeks. I'm going to order all of the books I always do for summer, and I'm going to spend my summer reading, because I'm an English teacher by trade, and it's something I don't get to do very often during term time. So I'm going to just enjoy reading and escaping into all the worlds that I can't get to right now.
Yeah. Jeff?
Hopefully some walking, possibly some fishing, ideally in Spain or even in Wales. Let's see. But probably a few weeks away from the sand would be very welcome during the summer.
Yeah.
Okay. Munir?
Yes, I wish to travel and get a respite from all this terrible of 18 months.
Yeah, I can understand.
And hopefully we'll come back.
Salma?
I am planning to fly home, enjoy my mom's cooking, and not have to worry what I have to cook for dinner. For me, that's the perfect vacation. Just to know that there will be food on the table, that I'm not responsible for cooking or preparing. The thought of itself just gives me pleasure and butterflies in my tummy. So that is it.
Mark?
You know me, Lisa. We have an email protocol here, so we don't open emails in the evening, and it extends. We're not going to have emails in the holidays. We're going to have one Thursday email to staff that they can look out for, and that's it. That's going to update everything. So we're going to force people to not feel the need to check things. I'm going to personally not wear a watch. I've taken it off today. Because I don't think I should be looking at. I love watches, but I'm not going to look at the time. I'm going to actually leave it there. I won't take my phone out and about with me. I'll rely on my wife's Apple Pay to pay for everything, so that's always good. So I'm going to really make sure, and I think this is something that's important. I think as leaders, you have to model the behavior. So it's no good me saying to staff do it and then me sending emails or checking emails. So that was part of our well-being journey. So I'm going to live and breathe what I'm hopefully preaching, and that's switch off. And nothing, the school's not going to fall down. So we'll be here. And if I'm absolutely honest, we'll probably get the details of how we're going to operate late August. So there's no point worrying before then. Let's just wait and enjoy the break, and exactly mum's cooking and travel and reading and all the things we love doing. Let's just go and do that.
If you're not wearing a watch, Mark, you're gladly invited to my mom's cooking. I'd be more than happy to not receive an email for the next 6 weeks.
Yeah, I think that's what head teachers should do. Make a rule: no emails during the summer holidays, at least for 5 weeks, at least. I mean, by then you should be able to switch off. You know, it takes teachers a little bit of time to completely switch off. It's not as easy, but when you switch off, if you're going to have to switch right back on because there's an email or somebody's trying to contact you over the summer, then that breaks your relaxation mode. So if all the principals and school leaders, etc., come to this conclusion, then people will have a more relaxed holiday. I mean, my big thing is I really want us to be off this red list. I really want to go home. I am really not coping with not being able to go. And if you think about it, I was posting today that if I were to go through a green or an amber country, the cost for a family of 4 would be extortionate. It would make no sense going onwards to the UK. So say, for example, we flew from here to Greece or to Spain or to Malta, then we might as well fly back to Abu Dhabi, because by the time we were to fly onwards to the UK, the costs would have mounted and it would have been probably one of our most expensive summers to date. Now, I don't know about everybody else listening to this podcast, but I'm not prepared to have such an expensive summer in the middle of this pandemic. I think we ought to, let good sense prevail. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a real pleasure. Any takeaways? Any takeaways from anyone?
Yeah, I think something that we can take away that I think we knew was there, but not necessarily been tested, is the adaptability of our learners. I think we've talked about leaders and the staff, but I think our kids have really shown us the way, because behind those face masks, you still see them smiling coming into school and taking all they can, and school closures, and then they're back in 2 weeks later, and it's as though they've just been so adaptable. I think we can throw a lot at our kids and they'll adapt to it, and I think we shouldn't sugarcoat things, and we shouldn't wrap them in cotton wool. I think they've shown great resilience, and that should be stretched.
Brilliant. That's it. So round of applause to all our students, all our kids, our own children, and the students that we teach. We really should be applauding them for all their hard work and resilience during this time.
Teachers and school leaders as well, because it's been a very tough year. A lot of dedication, long hours, and hard work, even more so than usual. So I think, the school communities have worked really hard. So parents are very grateful for that.
Yes. Any takeaways, Salma, Julia?
Julia, please, by all means, go first.
I just think that we never lose sight of what's in front of us and what's important: our loved ones, our families, and the jobs that we do. We are in a very privileged position. We change people's lives, and that for me will always be the most special part of education. And I think that anybody that steps into a classroom, whether it's a virtual one, a hybrid one, or a physical one, is doing a fantastic job. So don't lose sight of what's in front of us.
Yes, definitely.
Building on Mark and Julia and Jeff, yes, we adapt to everything, but I also feel that the past 18 months showed us that us and the kids are very capable. When shovel comes to push, I mean, we do things we thought that were impossible. We do things that we thought we're not knowledgeable of, that we don't have the skill or the patience or the resilience or the magnitude for. But guess what? Turned out we have even more. When it comes to our kids, we put them first. So I say never lose that faith that we are capable.
Wow, I like that. Never lose the faith. And we are all capable. Thank you very much. Thank you, Julia. Thank you, Salma. Thank you, Munir. Thank you, Jeff. And thank you, Mark, for being with me on the Teach Middle East podcast. It's been a tough all year, but guess what? I've made new friends. I've learned so much. I've had a fabulous time, and I hope you all have a restful and wonderful summer. And I look forward to reconnecting with all of you in the new academic year.
Thank you for listening to the Teach Middle East podcast. Visit our website, teachmiddleeast.com, and follow us on social media. The links are in the show notes.